It was a gray, damp London morning. Commuters hurried across the Millennium Bridge, heads down, lost in routine. Most didn't notice the shoes at first. A pair of bright red, well-worn Doc Martens, placed neatly in the center of the steel walkway. The laces were tied, the boots positioned as if someone had stepped out and vanished. Against the city's monochrome, the red boots were a jarring detail. Hours passed. The shoes became a silent landmark. People slowed, stared, then looked away, unsettled. The boots pointed toward St. Paul's Cathedral, visible through the fog. No note, no bag, no sign of struggle, just the shoes. They were an unanswered question in the city's daily rush. Rain began to fall, darkening the red leather. A police officer finally approached, searching for clues, but found nothing. The bridge offered no answers. The river flowed silently beneath. The shoes were a full stop at the end of a sentence no one had read. Photos appeared online. The story spread. Was it a prank, street art, or something darker? The boots were scuffed, loved, worn down by many miles. They had a history, now paused on the bridge. The city, relentless as ever, was forced to stop and wonder about the next chapter. The shoes became a mystery in plain sight, a disruption to the ordinary. They were both mundane and deeply unsettling. The only evidence, a pair of empty, red boots. The bridge, the boots, the fog. An accidental stage for a story no one understood. The city's collective imagination filled in the blanks. The shoes were a prompt, not an answer. They made everyone who saw them a participant in the puzzle. The boots lingered in memory, long after they were gone. The story had begun, but no one knew what it meant. The city moved on, but the question remained. Who left the shoes, and why? The bridge kept its secret. The red boots waited for someone to tell their story. The owner of the red boots was Alara Vance, a 21-year-old art student. Friends called her an observer, quiet, intense, always sketching unnoticed details. Her art was her voice, exploring what she couldn't say aloud. Alara collected lost objects, gloves, keys, faded photos, fragments of forgotten lives. Her flat was a museum of stories, each item a piece of someone else's world. She created installations from these finds, weaving memory and loss into her work. Her art was melancholic but beautiful, finding meaning in the broken and lost. Lately she'd been under pressure, her final degree show looming. She wanted to create something real, something that made people feel. She was tired of art that felt disconnected from life. Alara took long, aimless walks at night, searching for inspiration. She was passionate, committed, and deeply sensitive. Her art reflected the city's loneliness and her own. Leaving her beloved boots on a bridge seemed, in a strange way, to fit her. It was a gesture that felt like a line from one of her own poems. The act was both personal and public, a story told in silence. Alara's disappearance became her most haunting work. Alara was last seen on CCTV at 10:47 p.m., leaving her university library in her red boots. She looked calm, walking at a normal pace. After that, she vanished. No more CCTV, no trace on her usual route home. The shoes appeared on the bridge by early morning, discovered by a passing cyclist. Heavy fog had rolled in overnight, hiding everything from view. No witnesses, no evidence, just the boots, placed with care. At 11:15 a.m., hours after the shoes were found, Alara's phone briefly pinged a mast in Southwark. No call, no text, just a fleeting signal, then silence. The police were baffled. The phone ping didn't fit the narrative of a simple disappearance. They searched the river, reviewed CCTV, found nothing. No bag, no coat, no Alara. Only the red boots, now sealed in an evidence bag. The case was both public and private, a clue in plain sight, but no answers. The city had swallowed her whole. The timeline was precise, but the story was missing. The fog, the bridge, the boots, each detail deepened the mystery. Alara's disappearance was a vanishing act, perfectly executed. The only certainty, she was gone, and the city was left to wonder. The red boots were all that remained. The first theory was suicide. A bridge, empty shoes, a familiar story. The pressures of art school, her sensitive nature, the melancholic art, it all seemed to fit. But the details didn't add up. The neat placement, the phone ping, the lack of evidence. A second theory emerged. Someone else was involved, staging the scene. Yet there was no sign of struggle, no witnesses, no proof. Then came the most intriguing idea. Alara staged her own disappearance as art. Was this her final, most ambitious piece? A statement on identity, on the stories we tell about strangers? The shoes became a symbol, forcing the city to look and question. The phone ping could have been deliberate, another layer to the mystery. In this version, Alara is not a victim, but a creator, author of her own vanishing. The act of disappearing becomes an act of creation. The mystery itself is the point. The empty shoes are not just a clue, they are the artwork. Each theory says as much about us as it does about her. The story resists closure, inviting endless speculation. The red boots remain, daring us to decide what happened. Shoes are personal, they carry our stories, shaped by every step. Alara's red boots were her signature, worn daily, part of her identity. Leaving them behind was a powerful gesture, a shedding of self, or a new beginning. In art and literature, shoes symbolize transformation, journey, and absence. An empty pair often means someone is gone. Alara, as an artist, knew this symbolism well. By leaving her boots, she spoke in a language everyone could understand. The act was storytelling without words. No note, just an open narrative inviting interpretation. The shoes became a canvas for public imagination. Some saw tragedy, others saw art, some saw liberation. The boots didn't answer questions, they created more. They turned a private act into a public mystery. Alara's art was always about fragments and stories. With her disappearance, she became the ultimate found object. The red boots were not just evidence, they were an invitation. The story they started may never end. The city was left to imagine the rest. The public response was instant. Speculation flooded social media. The narrative of the troubled young woman took hold. People discussed mental health, pressures, and the stereotype of the sensitive female artist. Alara was cast as a modern Ophelia, a romantic, limiting cliché. This script is familiar, but it erases her complexity and agency. What if this was an act of power, not weakness? The performance art theory reframes Alara as a bold creator, not a victim. This idea is uncomfortable, challenging our assumptions about women and art. The story of the shoes reveals our own biases. We see what we expect, believe what's easiest. The mystery forces us to confront these tendencies. Theories about Alara are as much about us as about her. They show the stories we're willing to tell and to believe. The empty shoes hold up a mirror to our expectations. 2 years later, the bridge is just a bridge again. The red boots are gone, Alara never found. The case is unsolved, the story unfinished. The lack of closure is what lingers. We crave answers, but this story denies us. Each theory reflects our own worldview: hope, cynicism, fear. The empty shoes are a Rorschach test. We see ourselves in the mystery. Alara's story lives on in the questions it raised. Sometimes the most powerful stories have no ending. They invite us to search for meaning, not just answers. So, what do you see in the empty shoes? And what does that say about you?